Today, January 5th, 2023. We've got two items on the docket and some announcements to make. So if there's any members of the public that need to respond whenever I go through these announcements, please let us know. We've got three items on our agenda today that are being deferred, and then we've got one case that's been withdrawn. The items that have been deferred, and board members, I do want to bring to your attention to the first item on the agenda, which is case 2022-145. The marked docket that I had provided to you all reflected that case was withdrawn. However, basically the applicant reached out and there weren't any issues with the notices or anything. She had just thought that she might pursue a different plan. And then she responded back and said, you know what, I think I'd just like to defer the case. So that case is being deferred one meeting. It's not withdrawn. And that is the case, owner is 400 Degrees. The case is located at 3706 Clarksville Pike. It's a request to reduce the minimum footage for an adaptive residential development. So if anyone here was planning to hope to hear that case, it's going to be heard at the next meeting, January 19th. The next case that's been deferred is 2022-157. That's a case of Smith G Studios applicant, and St. Joseph Properties is the owner at property located at 1302 and 1308 Dickerson Pike. It's a request for a special exception to allow for a 6-story building there. So if anyone was planning to attend and be heard on that case, then it'll be heard at the next meeting on January 19th. And then finally, case 2023-3 has been deferred. That's applicant is Holly Jennings, and the owner is Aldersgate United Methodist Church, located at 512 Rosebank. It's a special exception for a daycare there at the church. And so if anyone, again, was here on that case, then we'll hear that one next meeting, January 19th. And then finally, case 2023-2. Was withdrawn. That was a case filed by Carlos Irizarry for property at 1936 Meadow Cliff. So if anyone had anticipated being heard on that one today, then that matter's been withdrawn. So I don't hear any comments in opposition to any of those announcements, so thank you. We don't have a consent agenda today. We've got two items that are going. Yes.
Can you clarify? 002, was that withdrawn, or 003, excuse me, was that withdrawn or deferred?
That one was deferred, and then the last one was case 3 was deferred. I went through the deferral list, and then I went back to case 2, and that one was withdrawn. Yes. I don't see any council members present, so I believe that there's no opposition to the cases, in which case the applicants today will have 5 minutes to make your presentation before the board. And just a reminder that it requires 4 affirmative votes for the board to grant an application. Once a vote is taken on your application, if a party disagrees with the outcome, you may request a rehearing or submit an appeal to the Davidson County Chancery Court by filing a writ of certiorari, and either one of those deadlines are due within 60 days of the decision. All parties are encouraged to seek independent legal counsel before filing an appeal to ensure that all deadlines and procedures are met. Applicants will call the 2 cases forward. I'll go through some maps and just submit the information that you have provided to the codes department and to the board. And whenever you come forward to make your presentation, just make sure to push the button with like sort of a circle looking person symbol on it until this button turns red, and then you'll be able to make your presentation and just make your state your name and your address for the board. And for groups, if there are multiple people that might wish to speak, then just keep in mind you've got 5 minutes altogether, not per person. Okay? Well, so with that, seeing no further comments from anyone, then we'll go ahead and get started with those presentations. The first case that will be heard today is case 2022-166. This is a case for property located at 314 East Trinity Lane, requesting a special exception from parking requirements in the CS zoning district for an adaptive residential development to construct 4 connected townhomes. This case has been recommended for approval by both the Planning Department and NDOT with the following conditions: compliance with the Major and Collector Street Plan, dedication of a specified right-of-way, and construction of a 24-foot, as required, drive aisle within the right-of-way. Before you here is a view of the zoning map, the aerial view of this area. This is the property as it exists today, and then to the left is the street view, as well as the rear and side of the property. This is the table, which has been requested for a special exception. So currently the requirement when there's a 90-degree drive aisle is going to be the 24-foot width. They've requested a reduction to 20 in certain areas, and we would just ask the board to consider those conditions that NDOT and Planning has requested. This is the site plan submitted by the applicant, and with that, we would invite the applicant to come forward and make your presentation.
Good afternoon, board. I appreciate y'all taking the time to hear this case. I think this one's... Oh, sorry. My name is Andrew Wiseman. I live at 214 Moray Court in Franklin, Tennessee.
Thank you.
No problem. I think this is an area of the code that's a little bit vague and may need some updating, and we've discussed this at length with Joey Hargis, and our original intent here is not to supersede the code in any way. It's more of a function of the property sizes that are here on West Trinity at 50 foot wide. What we're finding is that it's hard to develop anything other than, small commercial which has oddly parked situations, or, single family residential, which would comply with the CS as well. But in that case, it's not the density that these corridors are looking for to provide. So in this option, we do have the 24-foot behind the parking stalls or garages for what they are. The only thing we're requesting is the driveway all the way out to the street, which was the code's comment that we received. So on this site plan, you'll see that we have the 24-foot behind each of the garages. The garage, that's the L portion, is actually the one that would pull all the way back and back into that 24-foot. We've run turning movements and understand that that can work with moderately sized vehicles. And so we're of the opinion that this site plan is compliant with both the landscape code and the parking, the intent of the driveway parking width. So the only thing that's not shown on this site plan, and the comment that I heard that we can probably comply with, is provide a 24-foot driveway width within the right-of-way. We would just need to bump that driveway once it crosses that right-of-way line out and cause a transition there. So I think we could certainly provide that on this site plan without any trouble. So with that, I'll reserve a little time for any comments or questions if you have any. But other than that, we do have, the fire marshal has also given us an email saying that he feels that this complies with what he would need for aerial access without a 24-foot driveway. So he is in agreement with our site plan as well. Thank you.
Does your client have any issue with the dedication of the right-of-way in the rear of the property for future alley?
The future alley, the right-of-way, I think it's a non-existent alley all the way out both ends, so I would assume that it would probably be abandoned rather than anything, because it would be so long to get everybody on board to get that full alley width.
Yeah, that was one of the planning's comments on it, was that one of their conditions they suggested was to dedicate right-of-way in the rear of the property to ensure 10 feet from the property line to the center of the future 20-foot wide alley right-of-way. I think they're trying to dedicate for a future alley back there.
I would encourage planning to look a little further into the parcel viewer there. Do we have a picture of the area as a whole? So I guess we're just asking to dedicate the additional 2 feet.
10 feet or 10 feet from the property line to the center. Oh, yeah, I guess so, yeah.
Yeah, so I think it's probably a 10-foot alley now, so we would
Okay,
need to.
gotcha. So you
or
need a
15
5 feet additional.
Whatever it is, yeah. I think we would be okay with that as long as the setbacks could be held from the existing property line. Because basically that's, for us right now, that's a landscape buffer.
Right.
So it's nothing
okay.
to us to shorten that up, and we can still provide a C buffer with that improved density in the plantings. So I don't see us having a problem with that as well.
Okay.
But the frontage, I heard the dedication was on the frontage on Dickerson, on West Trinity, East Trinity.
It says the major and collector street plan requirements shall be met, and then a dedication of that right-of-way on the rear. On the front, it was widening, I think Public Works asked to widen the driveway to 24 feet within the right-of-way.
Yeah.
So it's not any dedication more, it's just widening it 24 feet there.
Yeah, I think we can certainly, I need to verify the width of that alley, but as long as we're not changing the bar on our setbacks, I think we could definitely comply with that dedication and be adequately. You can see that there's already existing buildings that are pulled up closer to that alley anyway, so.
Okay.
Questions from anyone else? Okay, thank you. We're going to close the public hearing and discuss.
Thank you.
And before we do, I'd like to ask the zoning administrator, so this is a special exception, and usually special exceptions are uses. So what is our standard here on this special exception?
Yeah, this falls under the special exception section because the proposed development falls under the adaptive residential development part of our code. Let me give you the site there from that.
Are those our typical special exception requirement condition?
Yes, sir. Your usual, promotes a strong pedestrian-friendly environment, doesn't detract.
No harm to neighboring property values, those things?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
And my question is, and I don't know if this is for Mr. Hargis or Ms. Ladd, but the applicant raised concerns regarding preservation of the rear setback. My understanding is that because there hasn't currently been a dedication, that the rear setback as it is now is what would apply. And so, if the project was constructed in accordance with a 20-foot setback that it's currently, it wouldn't shift that forward 5 feet, correct?
If it's a dedication that NDOT is requiring as part of theirs, I mean, we would do the setback from the existing property line.
Okay.
And then, the downside of that, we create a non-conforming structure going forward, but, so that's the negative of requesting right-of-way during construction, but yeah, we would typically do that.
My sort of thinking is I'm hesitant to affect the current property line, and and so whether we include that condition or not, I think I'm okay with including it as long as it doesn't impact the applicant's current understanding of where the construction would be. But if not, I would be more inclined to not include that as a condition.
Your concern being that
I don't
include it,
if we include it, if it affects
their site plan.
Yeah, if it affects the applicant's ability to construct these 4 residences and affects the site plan, if it's not necessary.
I can tell you our preference would be to not create non-conforming structures, Metro has, put it this way, Metro has the means of getting this right away.
Exactly, so that's my sort of.
If it's this is a project that needs to happen, city come out there and condemn it.
Wants versus needs, I think, is,
Sure.
So that's sort of, my inclination is not to have the right of way, and just when it comes to our department's authority, but if they need it, they'll get it.
You're talking about condition
So
number 2.
I can provide some background on this.
Sure.
I actually grew up in this neighborhood. I actually own the property that abuts behind this. I sold it in October. My mother lives 3 houses down. When I lived on this property or lived on that street as a child, there was an alley. But over time, it got overgrown. Metro abandoned it. When planning did a study in like 2018-19, they thought one of the ways to like abate the density was to rededicate. Any new developments would have to rededicate the right of way because otherwise you don't have but one way to get to these properties. So most places that have sort of denser developments have more than one way of getting in. Planning's recommendation was any new development, especially dense developments, they got to rededicate that alleys just so that all that traffic isn't sort of overflowing on these neighborhood streets. So I can tell you that all the properties that are behind this are single-family homes. This is on Trinity, so there is an argument for more density, which is great, but Metro is probably thinking they need more than one way into this property.
Yeah, and I guess my sort of question is looking at the plans, I don't know how they would it looks like a garage is going to be blocking the ability for any vehicle to get in anyways, so. Right, so it's even if it was built as it is, I guess my sort of question would be, unless there's
I think Metro was thinking in the future, they're assuming that developments will happen, and as developments happen and things get moved, then that alley would already be there.
Yeah.
And I will tell you, they've already restarted the alley on the other end of Edwin. That didn't used to be an alley where there was a dense development like this on Trinity, and they made them redo the alley. So
Right.
just as background.
Right. Yeah, and I think honestly, it seems like we're dealing with more of a now, either deal with it now as a condition or deal with it later as a condemnation or something like that.
Well, I have no hesitation. All the projects that I've worked on have had to dedicate alley right-of-way and dedicate right-of-way at the street for the very reason you're talking about, reestablishing alleys, using them. So I have no hesitation to include that condition. That's mine.
I honestly have more of a hesitation to include the condition of having the 24 feet at the Trinity. I guess it's for people turning in, but that doesn't seem to promote a strong pedestrian environment there. So, but it says if half the right of way on Trinity is going to be taken up with a turn in, but I also understand that that's probably at the current moment with it being a state route. I guess I think Trinity Lane is a state route. I can understand why they'd want that.
I don't think
I actually wish, and I know we're not designers here, even though some of us are by trade, but I wish that going along those lines, this was actually flipped and the unit at the back was facing the road, but there's probably a reason why that is not that way. I guess it's because lack of the alley right now. It's not a hard
It's a special exception.
It's gonna have to be a special exception. It is a narrow lot for the intensity of development, which is
0.18 of an acre.
yeah.
It's small.
Okay, so I did not understand the applicant to say it's going to be a problem, that the right-of-way is just 10 feet from the property line to the center of the 20-foot alley. In looking at the site plan, I just don't see how that's a potential problem. Maybe.
Yeah, I don't think it is in this case for the dedication of the right of way. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a question of we're basically, by doing it, we're creating a non-conforming structure.
Well,
which is,
I don't think, are we? I guess.
Yeah, because when you dedicate that, I guess
Okay.
it's 5 feet of right of way, then the property line, the setback is from the new property line
Yeah.
typically.
Yeah.
And so then it would be a 15-foot, where the building is now would be 15 feet and not 20, which is required. I mean,
Okay, I get what you're saying.
Yeah,
I couldn't follow you.
it's kind of a chicken or egg scenario here, I think, is where we are. And so I'm I guess I'm just sort of thinking, what's our, where is our authority versus where, another Metro department can or should do, so.
I'll just say, I understand your point completely. It's just very routine that these things.
Yeah, no, I get that.
Okay, does anybody,
I'll make a motion that we approve the special exception with the conditions that that the drive aisle be 24 feet within the public right-of-way on the Trinity side, that the project complies with the major and collector street plan requirements, and that the right-of-way in the rear of the property is dedicated to ensure 10 feet from the property line to the center line of the future 20-foot wide alley right-of-way per planning.
Second. All right, there's a motion and second. Any further discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, so 4-3, looks like. Okay, next case. Thank you, sir.
Next and last. Okay, sorry about that. 2023-006. This application filed by Jonathan Cisco for property located at 926 Gallatin Partner, the owner is 926 Gallatin Partners. It's for property located at 926 Gallatin Avenue, requesting variances from some of the bulk zoning requirements for the MUGA zoning district. This is for a drive-through restaurant. So before you here is the zoning map in this area along Gallatin, as well as the aerial view. This is the property as it exists today, as well as the neighboring parcel below and streetscape there to the north and south on Gallatin. I've included some of the text from the zoning code, since these are provisions that we don't normally have to address. So one of the requirements was about 40% of the public facade being glazing. I do understand that request is being withdrawn, because actually I think the applicant has determined that there are some design features that would allow them to comply, and if the zoning administrator could confirm that, thanks. And then, so the request that's still before the board today is actually the one below, where the building shall extend across at least 60% of parcel frontage. And then this is the site plan that's been submitted by the applicant, and I'm not sure which of you all was planning to present before the board, but if whoever was going to do your presentation would come up and sit at this table, and please state your name and address and make your presentation. You have 5 minutes.
Good afternoon. Thank you. David Abbey with Development Management Group at 4209 Gallatin Pike. We're here today for this property here at 926 Gallatin Avenue, and I've got a client who is looking to develop this as, again, as they've mentioned, the drive-through only restaurant. The concern that we had, and concern about the property in general, with it only being about 100 feet wide, is doing a 60-foot wide building that you would need to accomplish, obviously. One, you're going to have a little bit of a setback for any kind of landscaping or whatever. Then you got driveways. You really don't leave yourself a lot of room for access in and out, which is also going to make it incredibly difficult for deliveries. So as a part of that, we've turned that building sideways, because obviously it makes it a lot easier for the drive-through access to get in, access the facility, and then leave. And you've got good circular motion in and out of that site. And so, again, you've got bypass lanes, everything else to allow that access to take place. And so making deliveries, again, it would be very difficult for anybody to get in and out of a singular driveway on a site like this, especially if that building had to maintain that full 60-foot frontage. Again, this is as minimal or invasive of a project because it is drive-through only, so you're not going to have a ton of additional vehicular parking that's going to be required as part of this. It's mainly for employees. There is a kind of quick walk-in component. There are no seats or anything in there. The glazing issue that came up, again, was related to the fact that the bathroom was in the front. There was a concern about originally trying to put, obviously, a window that sees through, but in talking with zoning, they're allowing us to do it more of an opaque or spandrel-type glass, which obviously would eliminate that concern. So we do not have an issue with trying to put that in and meeting the 40% requirement, because originally we were at 37.3, so it's not going to be a very big window that's required. And
you gave us the 37% for the glazing, and maybe I missed it, but what percent is on the current site plan is the building taking? It's required to be 60, and you got a 100-foot lot. Do you know what percentage that is? And you may have it in here, and I just missed it.
Are you talking about just the frontage in itself?
The frontage itself. The requirement that the buildings extend across at least 60% of the parcel's frontage.
Right. I believe it is, I was trying to remember because the architectural is not showing it on their picture, but I think it's like
Looks like about 20.
20 to 25 feet, somewhere in there, I believe.
So about 20 to 20, you want to go from 60% to around 20 to 25%, essentially?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, thanks.
I believe that's really the questions or concerns that we had related to the site, so.
So what's your hardship for this?
We believe that again, with the general requirements that we have for access in and out, for making especially deliveries being one, two, circulation for the site would be very difficult on a project like this. And then maintaining all the stormwater requirements and everything else that we need to do obviously compacts that site even a little bit more.
Okay, so it has to do with like the way you're operating and the use you've decided for the site, more or less.
Yes, that they have decided for at this point. Yes, and again, minimal parking requirements, et cetera, that are required for this are obviously different. If you do another type of use, you're going to obviously increase the amount of parking that needs to go in, and again, circular access in and out of that site would be difficult on something this small too.
There's going to be you mentioned there's going to be a walk-up window for people if there's people that are on foot that are trying to come order?
The door they can access through the front door.
Okay.
Yes.
Any further questions? Okay, thank you very much. We're going to close the public hearing and discuss.
Mr. Chairman, I just also would like to disclose, because this is my day, I live maybe less than a mile away, and I live in the neighborhood, and so I pass by this site every day. I just want to disclose that.
Okay, well, thank you. I mean, looking at it, my concern is that it's creating a lot of, it's amenable to a lot of car traffic, and I mean, really, it's almost like you're creating a place to turn, do a horseshoe, and come right back out. And I don't know what the pedestrian. There is a sidewalk there. I don't really know, how often, what the pedestrian situation is over there. And also, to go from 60% to 30% is a pretty big ask to me for the building frontage. So those are the things that pop out to me. I'm not sure that I understand the hardship either. I think that's what you were getting at.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, and I guess this is an area under pretty rapid redevelopment in a lot of ways. So I was this way. So could you pull up go back to the definition of the right there. So this zoning district is intended to implement moderately high intensity mixed use policies, and this. And to create walkable neighborhoods through, appropriate building placement, bulk standards. And I mean, this does none of these. This only, it's a very low intensity just for cars, pretty much. I mean, maybe they have a walk-up window, I guess, but you've got, the over half your frontage here is turn lanes and, or curb cuts. It's not at all pedestrian friendly. environment, and the, all but that small building is completely for an automobile to use. And so I don't think in any way creates walkable neighborhoods. And again, also, I have a hard time finding a hardship as well, because it seems very self-imposed with their particular use they've determined for this site, which doesn't seem to, align with the intent of the definition of the zoning code here. So,
I believe our friend has made reference to the concept of certain courses for certain horses at different moments in the past, and I think I think that's an appropriate thought here with respect to the variance request.
I'd like to ask a question about the comment that planning made. They did not provide a comment because the applicant did not opt into the UDO. And
Yes, I would actually ask Mr. Hargis, if you all want to any deeper explanation. But what they said was they did not provide a recommendation as the applicant is not opting into the urban design overlay.
How are you able to not opt into something?
The Gallatin Road UDO, I'd like to bore you with, there's a long litigation history with this. Gallatin Road was originally SP zoned without a specific plan, and the court overturned that. So Metro had to rezone all of Gallatin Pike, and they applied a UDO, which somewhere along the line made it optional to join. And to date, no one has joined the UDO. I've actually advocated let's repeal the UDO. If no one's in it, why do we have it on the books? So I'm not aware of any parcels that have opted into the UDO. I'm sure maybe there are some, but not aware of any. But this is one of those, this is the only UDO we have that is optional. So you can choose to join it, which planning would be involved in the design.
I'll make a motion. I'll make a motion that we deny the variance request due to lack of a hardship and non-conformance and with the code as noted.
I'll second it.
Okay, there's a motion, a second. Any further discussion? Okay, being none, we'll vote on the motion. All in favor, say aye, or raise your hand. Okay, that.
I was opposed. You didn't ask.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, I thought you raised your hand. So.
No, I'm sorry.
Okay, all opposed to the motion. Okay, so it's 6-4, 1 opposed. Okay. I believe do we have any further business?
No, Mr. Chair, there is no further business before the board this afternoon.
Motion to adjourn.
To adjourn. Is there a second? All in favor? Okay, we're adjourned. All right.
Sorry, Ross. I didn't mean to.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information on this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.